Hi guys, welcome back to another Trafford Talk podcast. I'm happy to be joined with Rich. How you doing, mate?
I'm great, thanks. Happy to be on.
Yeah, it's good. Obviously, I've been on your podcast before, but now you've managed to join us on the Community Talk series, which has been going on basically since we started here. We're obviously quite a new channel on Spotify as well. So, yeah, I mean, we'll just get started soon. Obviously, you know what to do, guys. This will be recorded, so just like and subscribe and follow us on the socials, which are below Rich there as well. So, my first question is basically, obviously, it's Christmas time. This is obviously our last community talk podcast before Christmas. So, if anyone's seen this before Christmas or possibly even after, Merry Christmas, or obviously hope you had a good one. Rich, you as well, mate. Hope you have a good one.
Yeah, thanks.
But
Hopefully I will.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on just now with Tier 4 and basically stuck in the house over Christmas, but hopefully make the most of it. But I mean, at least we've got the football to go off of, and now, I mean, I'm going. This kind of brings me to my first question about how we've managed throughout the full season so far, because we're at the halfway point. Christmas, I think it's quite a fair representation about how we've played so far. I just want to hear your views on it about basically how we've done the league so far and what you think can improve.
Okay, I think firstly, I think my expectations at the start of the season was because we finished last season very strong. I was hoping to at least get closer to what I would consider the two best teams at the time, would be Liverpool and Manchester City. And if you look at our league position, we've still got a game in hand. We're ahead of Manchester City. We're scoring a lot of goals, playing a lot of great football. We've had, is it 10 away wins in a row in
Yeah,
all
we're
competitions, which is a phenomenal record.
untouchable away.
Yeah, which is an amazing record. And also recently we've been beating teams near the top, so say like West Ham, Southampton, teams which we've seen give other teams like Manchester City struggled against Southampton. And they're good teams. And Manchester United, I would say we're playing better than last season. Look at our league position. It's a lot better than last season. So there still seems to be a bit of negativity, but I think you have to look at it at this stage of the season. We're in the mix. We're definitely fighting for the top positions in the league, where the only really surprise maybe is probably Arsenal and nowhere near, but everybody else you'd expect, like Chelsea are quite good, Manchester City. But I would say those two teams, I wouldn't say Manchester United are worse than them. I would say we're playing as well, if not better than those teams. So I'm quite happy with how it's gone. I think we started really badly. So considering the first few games, how we started against Palace and how we played against Brighton, to be in this position, I think we've done well.
Yeah, I need to agree with you. I think that a lot of people are being very pessimistic going into the second half of the season, thinking, "Oh, how can we be title challengers?" Sorry, because I did put up a post yesterday, just on Twitter, and a lot of people did reply. And I mean, overall, the majority of guys were very optimistic for the season going ahead, and thought, you know what, we're actually sitting third, with a game in hand, a point behind Leicester, and if we beat Burnley, fingers crossed we do. I mean, it's typical us, we'll go and lose to Burnley, but if we do, then I think we're 2 points behind Liverpool in the league. That's ideal for me. If you told me at the start of the season that we would be sitting in this position, I would have literally bite your hand off. It's great that we're in this position, and I mean, you need to look at us as well. We've got a much bigger squad than Liverpool, and we've obviously lost Virgil van Dijk, who, and Joe Gomez, talking about him as well, who are pretty much the two starting centre backs, and you just wonder how long that can go on for. I mean, if they win it this year, I hold my hands up. They're better than this, way better than this. Whenever they're playing players like Matip and Fabinho at centre half, but I mean, you look at us as well. We've got clear areas we need to work on, but I think our team just now, through depth and just general quality around the team, we've got the players that can win a league. A lot of people don't think that. I mean, we've still got controversial, but we've still got Pogba. Bruno, obviously, I think he's our best player by a country mile. He's best player in the league this year as well. And then, to be honest, I think the defence hasn't done too bad recently either. I don't know if you can agree with me on this. I'm a big fan of Maguire. I think Maguire's really good. I don't think it's his fault as well, though. The fact there's an 80 million price tag on him, we need to remember that. It's Ed Woodward's fault, Manchester United's fault, not him, himself. Probably as an 80 million pound player, no, but did we need him? Yes, we were so desperate at that point in time because I mean, who was it we were even playing at centre back then? I think it was Phil Jones and Smalling or
It probably was that combination. I think at one point we had Phil Jones, Smalling,
terrible.
Evans, and then we ended up just having Phil Jones, who's been pretty much continually injured, I think, for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I actually saw that Ole did say that he'll be back for January, so hopefully we won't see him in a shirt again. Hopefully we'll move to Newcastle or something over the window. But yeah, I actually think no, like Ole as well, he's done a great job to get rid of so many just kind of deadwood players. I mean, you look now, we've really got like Rojo, Jones, you get rid of Smalling, get rid of Darman. I mean, I think it will be
Herrera got moved on, and so we've still got Lingard. What I would say is that's it's been a tricky job moving on those, and Sanchez as well has had a very high salary. Moving those players on was something we had to do, and we looked at these sort of players were sitting on the bench last year, and now they're not featured at all. We just need to move those on, and I think that a lot of people have been critical of players not playing, but what I've been quite impressed with is, say, against the Leeds match, you look at the bench we've got an amazing bench now. We've got squad players, and if you're going to have a great squad, you're going to have some very good players not playing. That's the way it is, and it's what we want, because you want to save those players for other games. Like you've got Everton coming up soon, and you've got Leicester on Boxing Day. So it's about rotating the squad, and I think that some players that came in against Leeds, maybe not people's first choice players like James and McTominay, but I think they did a fantastic job, and I think that was, we set up perfectly in that game. Like you said about Maguire, I think one of the issues I have sometimes is maybe the pairings, but I think it's been difficult because Eric Bailly comes in, plays a couple of games, looks very good, then gets injured. So unfortunately, he might be one of these players that maybe if we sign another centre back, he gets moved on, because as much as I like him, as much as I think he's good, he just can't get a run of games. And I wonder whether this might be the last season for him. Tuanzebe, I'd like to see play more. I would say that.
I was just about to say that. I think Axel's, to be honest, one of the best youth defenders in the league. And along with Mengi as well, I think, I mean, I don't know if you do watch much of the youth games as well, but I think Mengi is tremendous. See, he's built, he's a leader as well. And such a young age.
Said about him. And I think that's, obviously, I don't know as much, like Solskjaer will be able to look at the squad in terms of like youth players coming through. And I'd say like Tuanzebe, for me, definitely should have been getting some games recently. Whether he gets some now, I don't know. Because for me, sometimes Lindelof and Maguire doesn't work as the best partnership in terms of pace-wise. Individually, I think they played very well with different pairings. I think I saw Eric Bailly and Lindelof play fantastic in a couple of games, but unfortunately Bailly is injured. So I think we've got the pieces there. Like you said, I think midfield-wise, I would take it over any other team in the league at the moment, because you've got, like you said, controversial, but Pogba's been playing great. I think Bruno Fernandes is the best player in the league since he's joined, in terms of what he offers, in terms of creativity. And making every other player better, definitely. You see people forwards making runs because they know passes are coming. I mean, everything he touches has been amazing. He's had very few poor games, but I think when he's on the pitch, we really miss him when we take him off, which can be a bit of a worry sometimes. But he also got Danny van der Beek. I say McTominay put in one of his best performances I've seen for a long time against Leeds. So you got depth there as well. Something that, well, I haven't even mentioned Fred. I think Fred has been very good this season. He's been maybe in a lot of games the player that everybody talks about, Bruno Fernandes, and then the next player they mention is Fred. I mean, Fred does things. It's difficult sometimes to say what he does, but he's doing a great job, providing a lot of energy, a lot of there may be unglamorous things, but he's been playing really well. Maybe the second, third best player this season for us. And that's not even mentioning Matic, who doesn't get so many games now, but we've got so much depth in this area.
I still think that I'm just going to talk about your last point there as well about Nemanja Matic. I think he's kind of, I don't want to say it, but I think, to be honest, signing him on a 3-year deal was bizarre, absolutely crazy. the fact that we've done that. I mean, he looks now as if he has kind of passed it, but then you look at Fred McTominay, who can fill in that role now by the looks of it. And I mean, McTominay, that was the best game he's played. He was sensational, and I'm not being biased. I think everyone can agree.
I think that the touches, the finish. If you look at the first chance Leeds had, it was very similar to, maybe easier than McTominay's. But McTominay's first finish was fantastic. When I was watching that, it was just wow. And then the second finish, that great as well. And the work in midfield, the way he's beating players, playing with amazing confidence. The assist for James as well, that was just fantastic football. With two players that during the game are often criticised, which is ridiculous. But yeah, I think he's been playing as well recently as he has for a while. And I agree with what you said about Matic. If we're talking about a team, I would say the strength we've got is a lot of young players, like say Greenwood, Rashford's still very young, and James Young, Wan-Bissaka, across the pitch. And maybe Matic is the one position where he is kind of on the downward now, age-wise and performance-wise. And that's probably one of the key positions that Manchester United would be looking to strengthen.
Yeah, I'm going to just move on to that point, actually. And it's basically what you want to see happen in January. I mean, obviously, January's a lot harder to bring players in, get rid of guys from the squad as well. But I just want to know what you think needs to change, if anything, possibly transfers. And obviously, you need to remember we've got a very long run in of fixtures coming up as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that for me, maybe the strengthening should be whether you can get these players in January or not. I think central defensive midfielder, definitely like a replacement for Matic long term, and probably strengthen central defender. I think would be key positions. I think obviously there's people who talked about going on loan, but I don't know if we want to loan too many players out because, like you said, we're going to have a lot of fixtures. A lot of these players will be required.
Yeah, I went Loaney in the move.
But I think Alaba's linked to United. They're definitely talking to his team, but I think also other team players, obviously because of the quality of player he is. I think Juventus and other teams are also looking at him. There's Upamecano that we had a clear path to sign him in. Unfortunately, we didn't, but he's linked as well. Whether we get these or not, I'm not sure. I mean, a lot of people I know that I speak to on my channel quite like Ndidi as someone but obviously coming from Leicester, he's going to cost a fortune if we do actually end up getting him. But I think that sort of area, I'm looking at creative midfield and thinking that's our strength at the moment in terms of goals. Maybe if Greenwood's going to be our long-term choice as centre forward, or maybe if he's not, getting another centre forward in, because I don't know how many years we'll get out of Cavani. I do really think Rashford's playing fantastic, and I think maybe someone like Vardy. I was talking last night, someone like they're just more clinical that would take chances. But I'll say and also maybe a right winger. But I think if I was going to have like one or two, like a Christmas wish list, it would probably be a replacement for Matic and a central defender.
Yeah, I need to agree with you on that as well. I think that we desperately need a centre back. Really, we don't have that much depth anymore because Bailly's always injured as well. And Phil Jones, I mean, he doesn't really play with us anymore, does he? He just picks up a wage and goes home.
I think these players, you forget they're actually still at the team because I don't think I've seen them in a match squad. I've put Lingard in that group as well. I think they just need to be. If Lingard's fit and able, I think we should try and sell him because he can still. He's not as old as people think either. He can still do a job for a few years for somebody.
Yeah, and you think with centre back, if you get any, if you could choose someone at centre back just now, who would it be? Because for me, it would be Ben White. I think that with Meccano, I think he's pretty unrealistic. I think he'll go to Bayern now that Boateng's moving on in the summer. It just happens in Germany now. Every single team is almost a feeder club to Bayern, and they don't seem to want to move anywhere else in the world. It's annoying, but it's just what happens.
Yeah,
Alaba, I think Alaba would fit other systems better than us as well. Alaba next to Maguire, I think that would just, I don't know, it just doesn't seem right to me. I think in a back five, yes, it'd be perfect. He would play in like the kind of Luke Shaw role on the left of the three, but in a four at the back, I mean, would still be playing Lindelof. So for me, I would go Ben White of Brighton. I mean, I watched him quite a lot last year for Leeds. On our podcast before, obviously, Trafford Talk started, I've been talking very fondly of Ben White whenever he played with Leeds on loan, and he was probably their best player last year. And Brighton didn't want to sell him. And to be honest, he's probably been one of Brighton's best players. And I know we do say, oh, it's Brighton, but you need to remember the amount of shots they're having at them, and they do have a lot of pressure. They do invite it, and their back five. But Ben White's very capable of playing a four at the back as well, as we've seen in the past. But yeah, I just want to know, obviously, what name would you say? I'm guessing you would say Ndidi for the defensive mid role. What would you say for centre back?
I think I've quite liked what I've seen of Upamecano. I don't, like you said, it depends on how realistic it is, because we quite often get linked with players for a long time and nothing happens. But I think, like I said, I even said this about Bayern Munich, and if anyone's good in Germany, and I think even other people have made this point, if anybody's good in Germany, Bayern Munich end up getting them. If there are any, because I think it seems to be the way that it is, that if you're good for a mid-table or a top team in Germany that isn't Bayern Munich, you end up at Bayern Munich at some point. It's just the way it is, whether we like it or not. But I think the main thing is, like you said, if Maguire's going to be our first choice, is getting someone that complements him. And I think that's the key. But also, as much as I like Eric Bailly, like I said, we're not going to get enough games out of him. So if we can get Upamecano, I don't know if we get Alaba. I think these might be unrealistic. It depends on, but it's quite a good shout of White, like you said, for Brighton. And I think it doesn't matter which team they play for, because I know when we got Aaron Wan-Bissaka, that Crystal Palace really didn't want him to go. And I think even in press conferences, they would try not to talk him up because they knew how good he was. And so whether we get players from low, it doesn't matter what team they come from, because if they're good enough, then they're good enough. And I think it's, for Manchester United, maybe it's about, we've got the good players there. It's about maybe the organisation. So I would ask you actually, do you get concerned about how we continually concede goals from corners or set pieces? Quite often we seem to not deal with them that well. And that's something that you can actually practice or prepare for before the game.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say about practice. I mean, surely that needs to be practiced and practiced and practiced in the training ground. I mean, fair enough if we concede a few goals for corners, but to be honest, I mean, height-wise in the box, I mean, we get Martial out the front post usually. He doesn't really win a header ever. And then we've also got, I mean, Maguire. Really, who else do we have? McTominay, who's kind of suspect in there as well. He doesn't seem to provide that much. And De Gea doesn't really own his box either from set pieces, corners. He seems as if he's almost kind of scared to come out. At times, he relies on his defence to do it. Whereas De Gea from a few years ago, he would come out and win the ball and claim it and shout. I don't know. I mean, maybe you think differently, but I think De Gea obviously needs to work on that side of his game where he should really be commanding the full team. He used to be the captain of the team as well.
Yeah, I think with David De Gea, because he's been playing for so long, do you think he can actually change much the way he plays? I think in terms of like defence,
like that though.
Fun.
I think he used to play in that style though, where he used to come out and win the ball from corners. So I think he can change. I think he can go back to what he used to do. Maybe he's trying to now adapt his game. He's getting slightly more experienced, older, but I mean, he's looking worse than what he has previously. Yes, he has improved from last season, but it's still not at the standard we would expect from David De Gea.
No, we're talking about someone that was player of the season for 2 or 3 years, which is almost unheard of for a goalkeeper at Manchester United. But in terms of like defending, I think people criticise Wan-Bissaka's position sometimes. I think that's something that could also be worked on. But I think that's not to do with we need a better quality right back. I think it's to do with the organisation of the defence, because sometimes the positioning looks wrong. We leave a massive amount of space on one side. But that's been like overcritical, because I think overall we've been playing well. And certainly I've seen improvements from the start of the season, where I think against Brighton we're quite lucky to win. But I think this is kind of, I'm looking at Manchester United and thinking each game we play, I'm expecting us to score a few goals. If we could keep it tighter at the back, I think that would make the difference between winning or losing, like a Premier League title eventually, or whether we'll get some success in cups. So I think what I would say is that maybe there's been some negativity because of a couple of results recently where Liverpool have looked sort of back to their best, whereas 3 or 4 games ago they were really struggling. And I think maybe it's the way they dismantled Palace that people started then becoming negative. But then also just after that we went and played Leeds and could have scored 9. We could have easily got double figures. We missed about 4 or 5 very good chances.
Yeah, I think that it's all about Martial. For me, I think misses way too many chances. I mean, for example, Leeds, wasteful. The way he plays recently, it's just annoying to watch. To be honest, I think that probably you can agree with me. I don't think he's up to the right standard at the moment. Now he's hitting 25. Possibly maybe look to move him on.
I think what's difficult with that is because so I was watching Marshall and James against Leeds, and they do a fantastic job of winning the ball back, pressing. And Marshall got 2 assists. What's hard to understand is why he's sometimes in amazing form and can't stop scoring, and then other times, like maybe this season, he has missed quite a lot of chances that you expect him to finish. And that's why I was kind of thinking long term, maybe he's more of a winger because he's doing a great job in that role. Do we need someone that is like a Cavani of 5-10 years ago, that is someone that's just going to take every chance, that is just going to finish off all these moves? I think Greenwood possibly could be that in the future. He seems to be the most natural finisher, goal scorer. But maybe Marshall's strength is more, he's good on the ball, he's good at winning it back, he's linking up well with the forwards, but is he maybe not the clinical goal scorer? I mean, he was last season, that's the crazy thing. So it's difficult to say. I don't know why, because like I said, he got a goal recently, so you think he's going to press on, get confidence, and it was quite an easy chance against Leeds. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think he just kind of ghosts some games like throughout. It's if he's kind of wants to stay away from the ball, like not get involved. And to be honest, even if Rashford does have poor games, I think he's always willing to try and get on the ball and keep going and going and going. Whereas Martial, I mean, you wouldn't even know he's on the park sometimes this season. He's like playing my man down. I mean, we've seen glimpses of a world-class player in Martial, but consistency-wise, I think he's well off, and possibly maybe look to change that in the long term. Possibly move him on and bring someone else in. But at the moment, not priority to move on. And as we said, we probably need to work on centre-backs and defensive mid. So I'm going to move on and talk about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who, I mean, he's on everyone's lips just now. Everyone wants to talk about him. He's been
something everybody talks about.
In about a week somehow. For me, nothing's changed. I still think he should be given way more time. He's clearing out about 5 years worth of absolute terrible players, and now he's actually turning the team into quite a good team. There's going to be blips along the way, for example, the Champions League, but you need to also remember we were up against PSG, who were in the final of the Champions League last year, and RB Leipzig, who were in the quarterfinals, the quarters or semis last year. I can't actually remember.
I think they got to the semi. They lost to PSG, I think.
Yeah, so they did. Well, two top teams.
I think on paper, when we got I think the frustrating thing from that is that we kind of ruined it by playing so badly against the worst team in Game 3, where we should have put them away twice, and then we wouldn't even be talking about PSG game in Leipzig. That was just one of the games for me. That's probably the most disappointing game of the season because I think it's so important. But to answer your question, I think the start of the season you can kind of make excuses for. We had no pre-season. It was a strange year. The way we finished last season, we played a lot longer than some teams. And you could tell that I think Pogba came back after having tested positive COVID-19. So he wasn't, you can't tell how it's going to affect somebody. So I think maybe he came back too soon because he didn't look like he had anyone near fitness. And so the fact we're now in the mix, like if we won our game in hand, big if, but if we won our game in hand, we're 2 points off the team that ran away with it last year. You'd say we're in a good position in the league. And I don't have extreme views on Solskjaer like some people do. I would say that things I've liked have been how, I say since he's been manager, each transfer window, I think we brought in better players and we moved out players that, say, over the last 4 or 5 years through different managers, we signed the wrong sort of players. And gradually we've been moving those on. I think the players he's brought in have been really good, very good signings. They made our team better, our squad better. And the one criticism I got sometimes is maybe in some games the substitution's extremely late. I would say maybe in the European game last season that we got knocked out of, I think the thing that was frustrating for me was that we had about 5 very good chances at the start of the second half. We didn't take them. That's not on Solskjaer. That's just on the forwards. And then when the other team started sort of they made a few changes and started controlling the match, we couldn't really adapt then. But maybe that's also some of the coaches or maybe the assistant manager. I think Solskjaer had set the team up quite well to start with. So sometimes it's some of the in-game decisions. I think they've been better recently. To say like against West Ham and against Southampton, we changed things at halftime quite early and had a much better performance in the second half. But it's kind of tricky to say, isn't it? Because do you think a different manager coming in now would make any difference? I don't think it would.
No,
which for me, it would be ridiculous to sack somebody that. Now, people will say he's not going to win something, but if he wins, is it going to take them actually to win something for these people to change their minds? I think you've kind of got to just see what's happening. And I think we're playing better now than we have done for a long time. I'm watching games where against Southampton, I thought we played well, and the free kick was unstoppable for me. I think the set piece, okay, you can say maybe we can defend it better. But the way we came back in the second half, that was like, if that happened under Fergie, people would be saying, what great management, what great substitutions. So I think some people have already decided their view, and it doesn't matter what happens. That if we play amazingly, it's because of the players, whereas you've got to give credit to everybody. But also, if we're not signing players that people want, that's not Solskjaer's fault. It's kind of the club structure, and I think that people were happy to see Mourinho leave, and then you can't want to sack a manager every sort of 18 months because then you end up with a weird situation where somebody comes in and you have lots of players from different managers. That I think Solskjaer's built quite a cohesive team, and I think from what you've said, I think you're quite happy with how the process is going so far.
Yeah, I think that overall, I mean, it's been bumpy throughout really his full reign as manager, but I mean, it's always expected. No manager that comes into Manchester United are going to have an easy run, especially with the team we've got and the team that he inherited. Whenever, I mean, you look at the team that Mourinho left him, it was completely broken. It had Van Gaal players, it had his own players, and even going back to David Moyes.
Probably had a couple of Moyes signings as well. Some bizarre signings as well, like Schneiderlin, Sanchez. Things didn't work out. Di Maria, we tried throwing money at it and it didn't work. I think the signings now are quite good signings in terms of like for the future. Got Wan-Bissaka. I think people also when they're comparing, say, James, Wan-Bissaka, McTominay, anybody, and Greenwood to other players, you've got to also understand that these players are going to develop and improve. And we see that with McTominay. He's getting better. And we see like Greenwood, obviously, he's only played for like one season, really. And Wan-Bissaka is still very young. So these players could also improve and get better. Whereas I think we signed a couple of players like Sanchez and Di Maria probably past their peak years. And that's not really ideal. Whereas now we've got a team that can grow. I think maybe what we do need is perhaps some leadership.
Yeah. I think we definitely are missing that. And I mean, Maguire, everyone loves to slander Maguire, as we know. He is the captain. Should he be the captain? I don't know. I would probably say it would be Bruno, but I don't think it's the end of the world. He's still vocal on the park anyway.
Yeah, I think Bruno, it's like it's the sort of thing you don't really learn, do you? You're just a natural leader.
Yeah.
Bruno Fernandes, as soon as he's come in, you can. It's just how he is. That it helps when you're one of the best players because people will also look up to you performance-wise. I think your words carry more weight because he's delivering, and also it seems to care so much. I think one of the good things is you see people like Rashford, people that have grown up with the club that will be fans of the club, but also definitely good enough. And sometimes he gets criticised as well, which I think is unfair because I think he's been playing very well.
Yeah, so I'm just going to move on to the last point. I think we can both agree that we want Ole to continue as a manager, and he's basically unsackable at the moment, especially with sitting third in the league with a game in hand to go second and 2 points behind Liverpool. It would be absolutely crazy to let him go anytime soon from what he's done. But what I put up on Twitter yesterday on just my United Speaks, and basically I was just wanting to see what the United fans were saying about us being title contenders. So I asked them, and it was very mixed opinions, mixed thoughts. A couple of guys actually messaged me privately about it as well and thought, like, what are these guys saying? Some of them, and it was quite funny. And I mean, some of the guys were very optimistic, like myself and you, and they were saying, why would we not try and push the league and show other teams what we can do, the type of players we've got. But then you get the other type of the fan base, and you're like, you need to be so tuned to the absolute moon to think that we can challenge the league. And I just don't understand that personally. I think it's crazy the fact that fans can literally say that we aren't title contenders. I mean, yes, there's half a season left, but we've still got time. We've still got time to catch up with Liverpool, and we can still drop some points over this time as well.
I would say it may be more open this season because you have more teams that, say, Everton and Leicester and Southampton, and these teams are taking points off the top teams. In like Chelsea's case, they're beating Chelsea. I think both those teams might have beaten Chelsea recently. But so it's like when Leicester won the league, people kept saying, "Oh, Leicester aren't going to win the league. They're going to eventually slip up." And if you get a run going, then it motivates the players more because you got a chance to win. We have got a chance to win. I think the big issue is how good are Liverpool going to be? And obviously, they're missing Van Dijk. If they carry on like they played the last couple of games, it's going to be quite difficult. But it's a long season, and you don't know what's going to happen with form, injury-wise. The fact that Manchester United are actually in the conversation, I think, is a big improvement from last year. I think at this stage last year, we're probably 10, 12 points down on Liverpool at least. And we were just hoping to try and get into the top four. But things can change quite quickly. As we've seen, maybe a few weeks ago, Tottenham are top of the league, looking great. They've had a couple of poor results. Chelsea seem to be a very streaky team, have a few wins and a few defeats. The same with Everton and Leicester even. So Manchester United are on the back of a good run now. I think people are expecting that we'll have a couple of poor results and suddenly be nowhere near. But you've got to judge it as it is. And the key maybe for me might be we're going to play Leicester on Boxing Day. And at some point when we play Liverpool, that'll be a good benchmark to see how we are. Because last season we definitely, against Liverpool and against Manchester City, we're very much quite defensive to try and hit them on the break. Whereas now I think we're a better team than that. It'll be interesting to see how we compete with Liverpool, because for me they're the team to beat. If we finish above them, I think we win the league. But to say we've got no chance is quite pessimistic, because I mean I've supported Manchester United for so long that there's been seasons where like Newcastle should have won the league. They were probably the best team, but it comes down to the end of the season, and unfortunately at the moment we've got a lot of players that haven't won much in our team. So if it's very tight at the end of the season, Liverpool may have a slight edge, and they've got to have the confidence because they were the champions, and that does help a bit. But I think we're definitely in the shout, and if we if we can get a couple of key pieces for this season, then great. If we don't, and we can strengthen in January, the summer transfer window, then I don't see any reason why we can't be in the mix, because who else is considered title challengers? Manchester City, Chelsea, and I say we're as good as those two teams in terms of the players you got available and the way we're playing. That when we played against Manchester City, I was surprised that Manchester City was so cautious, and I think they were scared about us. I think we had, actually, for once, we had more pace in our team than they had.
Yeah, Man City are, I mean, probably one of the best teams in the league, and they have been for the last how many years? Probably 10 years now.
For at least like 4 or 5 years, they've been incredible. When they played us last time, they would dominate us, and we'd hit them on the break and think, okay, we've got away with one maybe, but they looked like they were scared to. Yeah. They were showing us more respect than they have recently. I think that shows a lot about how other teams are looking at Manchester United. They're thinking if they get a point and draw, then they're quite happy with that. We saw Chelsea go quite defensive. Manchester City didn't go for it really. Arsenal got lucky. We just gave them that.
Yeah, I think whenever you look to your traditional top 6 teams, I mean, if you would say to me, "Oh, we're second out of the 6," I think I was absolutely crazy at this stage of the season. 2 points behind Liverpool, who flew away with the league last year as well. How can we possibly complain? And Liverpool also, you need to remember, have everyone injured. Now Diego Jota's got a PCL injury, which puts him out to, I think it's about 45 months. So, I mean, we're not going to see him for ages either. And the majority of the games do come over this period of time. And you look at us and you think, who's actually injured? Cavani's coming back.
I think last season we finished 3rd, and to say that Pogba missed most of the season. Didn't he get injured in August or September? Yeah. And then Rashford was out quite a lot of the season. And we didn't have Bruno Fernandes, and we didn't have Van der Beek. Do we have Fred? Or Fred wasn't. We basically had to play Fred, McTominay, and Williams because Shaw was out injured. We had a lot of problems last season. This season we've got everybody available. So
yeah, everything's looking on the up, and I want to obviously finish it there on a positive. I think we've covered everything that we were going to talk about. I think that, I mean, we need to try and remain optimistic. Obviously, it's quite difficult because Liverpool are just dominant at the moment. But you need to remember, it's football, anything can happen, and injuries are taking place left, right and centre in the Liverpool dressing room. So, yeah, I think we've got the ability to win the league, yes. Still, though, do I think it will happen? I still think Liverpool could possibly do it. But
I'd say
I'm still hoping that we'll manage to do it and pick up some hard results, because we've obviously got Liverpool in January. But I'm just going to finish there, and thanks, Rich, for coming on. Obviously, I need to congratulate you. That's you hot 300 subs on YouTube as well. If you guys haven't already, go and subscribe, to Rich Sports, and we'll try and get the socials down as well for him as well. So thanks for coming on, mate.
No, cheers, Robbie. I've enjoyed it, and I say thanks for coming on my channel when you did, and welcome to come on again. I'm going to be doing something quite soon, actually, a preview for the Everton game, because, like I said, things can change quickly. There's going to be a game every few days, and this season has been maybe a bit more of a compressed season with a later start. But as long as Manchester United are up there and fighting, I think you've got to be optimistic, because we played against quite good teams as well recently, like Everton. We beat them quite comfortably in the league in the end, and Southampton, we won there. So I think it's going to take a win against Liverpool, and then people will change their minds. Hopefully that will happen. That's what I want.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll be talking to you on the start of January anyway, whenever we're playing Liverpool. So you know what to do, guys. Obviously, if you're still here, make sure to follow the socials, like and subscribe. But yeah, I'm just going to finish it there. So thanks, guys, for listening, and thanks, Rich.
Okay.